Most people think of tequila as a purely Mexican creation. It isn't. On the surface, the story of Mexico's national drink looks straightforward, born entirely from the blue agave plant in the sun-drenched valleys of Jalisco. But there is a detail hidden in the pages of maritime history that nobody talks about. If you look closely at the traditional wood and clay stills used in western Mexico, they look nothing like European equipment. And this is where the story shifts. The technology that unlocked Mexico's most famous spirit didn't come from Spain, and it didn't come from Europe. It came across the Pacific Ocean, carried silently by sailors and laborers from the Philippines over 400 years ago. What people don't realize is that for 2.5 centuries, the Philippines and Mexico were essentially part of the same administrative territory. From 1565 to 1815, the Manila-Acapulco Galleons traveled back and forth across the open, dangerous waters of the sea. Spain managed the Philippines not from Madrid, but through the Viceroyalty of New Spain in Mexico City. Because of this administrative link, thousands of Filipino sailors, builders, carpenters, and farmers boarded these massive wooden vessels. They survived months of scurvy, storms, and isolation to arrive on the tropical beaches of Acapulco. Many of them never went back. They settled along the warm, humid coastlines of Colima, Jalisco, Michoacán, and Guerrero. And what's interesting is how quickly they adapted to their new home using the profound agricultural knowledge they brought from the provinces of Luzon and the Visayas. In the late 16th century, these Filipino settlers noticed that Mexico's coastlines were covered in thriving groves of coconut palms. Back home, Filipinos had perfected a method of fermenting coconut sap into a sweet, natural palm wine called tuba. They also knew how to distill that liquid into a clear, high-proof spirit known as lambanog. To do this on Mexican soil, they built a very specific, elegant piece of technology, a rustic, top-cooled wood and clay still. This part surprised even locals at the time, because pre-Hispanic Mexico did not have a widespread tradition of distilling alcohol. The indigenous people fermented agave juice into a mild, milky, low-alcohol beverage called pulque, but they lacked the specific engineering knowledge to distill liquids into high-proof liquor. But the detail that stands out most is how these Filipino immigrants changed the local economy. They began making coconut brandy along the Mexican coast, and it became an instant commercial success among all classes of colonial society. In fact, it became so popular that it began to seriously threaten the profits of wine and brandy importers back in Spain. To protect their monopoly, the Spanish crown eventually banned the production of coconut spirits in Mexico entirely. Here's where it gets complicated. The Filipino distillers did not stop production. Instead, they moved inland, away from the watchful eyes of colonial officials, and hid in the rugged, isolated valleys of Jalisco. Once hidden deep in the mountains, these innovative craftsmen faced a major logistical problem. There were no coconut palms in the dry highlands. But as they looked around the valleys, they found an abundance of wild agave plants, rich in natural sugars. They applied the exact same Filipino distillation technique to the roasted, crushed hearts of the blue agave plant. The result was a completely new type of spirit, originally known as vino de mezcal. Over the centuries, a specific town in Jalisco became world-renowned for refining this exact process. That town was named Tequila. What's interesting is that even today, traditional mezcal and tequila producers in western Mexico still use what historians explicitly call the alambique Filipino, or the Filipino still. Unlike European copper pot stills, the Filipino still uses a hollowed-out tree trunk or wooden barrel placed over a clay base, using an internal condenser system. It is a living piece of ancient engineering that remains virtually unchanged after 4 centuries of continuous use. But the cultural exchange did not stop with alcohol. As Filipino workers integrated into Mexican society, they introduced the art of harvesting coconut sap. They taught locals how to climb the tall trees, slice the flowers, and collect the sweet nectar in clay jars. If you visit the Mexican state of Colima today, you will find that one of their most celebrated regional beverages is a sweet, refreshing drink made from coconut palm sap, served cold with chopped peanuts and fruit. The locals call this drink tuba, using the exact same linguistic term used across the Philippine archipelago today. The vendors who sell it are called tuberos, a profession directly passed down from those original Asian migrants. Furthermore, the migration brought other staples across the sea. The mango varieties that Mexico is famous for today, particularly the Manila mango, trace their lineage directly back to seeds transported on the galleons. And this is where the story broadens into everyday culture. The influx of Filipinos and other Asian populations was so vast that an entire neighborhood in Mexico City, known as the Parian Market, became a hub for Asian goods, languages, and customs. Filipino clothing, such as the lightweight, intricately woven shirts, subtly influenced the development of traditional Mexican rural attire. The shared history created a profound genetic and cultural tapestry that lines the Pacific coast of Mexico to this day, though it is often omitted from standard textbooks. What began as a quiet migration of sailors and laborers fundamentally reshaped the culinary, cultural, and economic landscape of an entire nation. The next time you see a bottle of traditional Mexican spirit, you are not just looking at a product of Mexican soil. You are looking at a legacy of global innovation, quietly shared between two nations across the vast, uncharted expanse of the Pacific Ocean. Did you know about this connection before?